Yeah. Okay, the Jentry Podcast. I know that you will be loving it. We here to break it down so that you start to understand your local government. Who are the leaders? Time to get active, do something about it. Dealing with jobs, the workforce, and affordable housing. Motivate and inspire. Elevate, take it higher. For the next generation. Knowledge is power for your community. Giving you the info that you really need. Time to make a change and a difference. Tune in, don't miss it. It's the Jentry. The Jentry Podcast. The Jentry Podcast. Making a change, switching it up.
Hello, and welcome to the Jentry Podcast. Today, we have an incredible guest. I'm your host, Jonathan Mason, and here with me, I have Christine Cockley, Ohio State Representative of District 6 in Ohio. I'm so excited to have her. She is a true champion of those, I don't want to say are left behind, but sometimes people will not stick their neck out. She believes in community engagement and is not just in the seat she's at now, but throughout her entire career. She is a wife, a dog mom, and I even saw somewhere that she might even be a mother to some chickens as well. So,
Yes.
Christine, how are you doing today?
Hi, Jonathan. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I have been reviewing your podcast episodes, and I think that you are really onto something. And my love for public service and engaging youth and different people at all levels of government just really makes this podcast so much more meaningful. So I'm really excited to then.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind words. And yes, we love to see the interplay of how state and municipal government work together because it takes every level to truly create change. But before we get into that, I'd love to hear your background. Like I've got a chance to look at it, but please share with the viewers. I'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So I am originally from Mansfield, Ohio. I graduated from Lexington High School. From there, I moved to Columbus, where I have lived for well over a decade. I became a two-time graduate of Ohio State's Glenn College of Public Affairs, where I specialized in nonprofits and earned my master's in public administration. During my time there, I had a lot of different work experience and internships that were really foundational in where I am today. But in addition to my proper training and education, I would not be here today without the public service that my parents really instilled in me. So my favorite go-to fun fact is that I have walked in more parades than I have ever seen. And it's because my parents truly believed in being civically engaged, not just at the ballot box, but also out in the community to help get like-minded individuals into elected seats where they will truly represent you. So my education and my upbringing have brought me here today. In between that time, I've worked for various nonprofits, including Moderation Management, YWCA Columbus, and even a little bit of consulting for board governance in the nonprofit sector. I did spend 2 years in the private sector where my boss said to me, Christine, you seem a little bit miserable. Maybe you should do something within public service on the side. And I told her she was onto something. So that's when I really started getting back into the nonprofit sector after during those 2 years in the private sector. So nonprofits have always had a special place in my heart, whether it was during my time growing up volunteering for Big Brothers Big Sisters, or being a camp counselor and volunteering at our local friendly house, or donating to domestic violence shelters and making sure I did community service projects within the nonprofit community, all the way up until today, where I frequently say nonprofits do the work that the government fails to do. And so every single day in my role right now, I still am interacting with the people who do the work at the nonprofits, the people with the lived experiences who are benefiting from the nonprofits in the community. Public service is something that will always be near and dear to my heart. It's instilled in my body and it's who I am.
Wow, Christine, that is incredible.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, it was exactly what I wanted and exactly what the viewers want. You are somebody that I want to say was born into it in all the best ways possible. You were not just like how you said, not just at the ballot box, but walking the walk, literally, for people that are actually doing the work. So that is very impactful. And I think that's when you know you have a good manager, when they reach out to you and they say, hey, you may not, you're great at your job, but there might be something missing. And I've had a few in my career that have done the exact same thing. So I definitely appreciate that. Now, for our viewers that aren't completely aware, what is a state representative and what does that day to day sometimes look like?
Absolutely. I did a community survey to kind of gauge whether or not my constituents knew what my role as a state representative was. Overwhelmingly, most people do not know. So for the viewers who also do not know, totally fine. It's also very, very, very different state to state. Some state legislatures are full time, some are part time. It really just kind of depends on where you are. And so for my role specifically, I spend the full year, we're technically full time. Although we have a summer break, we're able to still drop bills, do legislation. Our committees are technically full time, but we do take a summer break. So a majority of my work is a combination of legislative activities, constituent services, and more community and networking within the district. I would say it's those three buckets. So legislation, I don't mind my stamp from the Ohio Fair yesterday. I showed a pig for the first time and we had committee there. So we had ag committee at the fair. It was awesome. But I would say as a state legislator in Ohio, my role is broken up to three areas: constituent services, and community engagement. So legislation is making laws for Ohioans. The constituent services piece, if any of my constituents are having an issue with government entities, they can reach out to us and we can kind of help make their cases and make sure that their cases are closed in a way that they're getting the answers and the resources that they need. So a lot of those calls will be related to jobs and family services, for example. Some of those calls will even be very often over on the west side. My constituents complain about trash. So sometimes it will be us reaching out to 311 and saying, hey, our constituents have been reaching out about trash. Why haven't you done anything yet? And they'll be a little bit more responsive because it's my office calling. And then the third piece is the community outreach. So we do a lot of open office hours. We do a lot of town halls. We do a lot of roundtables, really trying to get resources within the community. And part of the legislative process is also a state budget. The operating budget and the capital budget, which is a great opportunity to get funds into the community. But it's very difficult in Ohio to do that, especially in the minority. So one other way that it can be beneficial is helping connect other funding streams and opportunities and resources for the people in the community.
Wow. I love the fact that you are still open and really engaging with the community to see what bubbles up. Because yes, I'm sure a lot of those agencies, once they get a call from your office, the job may get done a little bit quicker. And you also talked about the budgeting process and how sometimes it is getting other sources of capital into the community. I definitely want to touch on just how that budgeting process and maybe how you might have to work across the aisle to get things done a little bit later. But before we get there, just for the viewers, what committees do you serve on? And then how does that kind of shape your the focus?
Absolutely. I am an open book, so please excuse me while I take notes. It helps my ADHD process the questions and
Please
be
do.
intentional with my answer. So my committees, I am on Ag Committee, Technology and Innovation, and Insurance. I love technology and innovation, and I love Ag Committee. Insurance is interesting, but it's not as fast paced as the other two, especially because 1 in 7 jobs in Franklin County, where I represent, are directly related to agriculture. And then obviously with technology today, it's just so ever changing and fast paced. So it's both of those two committees have been wonderful, and insurance has been a great learning opportunity for me. And that kind of dives into the budget. So the budget process is very fast paced. It's often confusing. I am a Democrat in a very Republican run extremist state. So getting my budget priorities requires a lot of strategic thinking and working across the aisle. So, for example, I looked at the organizations within my community that had funding requests for the budget, and I had to think to myself with my staff and other stakeholders doing the work, what organization will the House majority realistically support and want to fund? And what organization do their constituents benefit from in addition to my constituents? And so I was able to get $500,000 into the budget for an organization called The Refuge, and it's a men's recovery program. And they have 2 physical buildings right in and nearby my district that draw in people from all across Ohio for this program. So that was one way that I was strategic and able to get a win into the budget, despite it being an extremist state where I don't serve on the finance committee and I don't have a seat at the table at the finance committee. So really being strategic to make sure we get those funds. And then the other piece outside of the budget process, I often will meet with organizations, lobbyists, corporations who say to me, how can we be helpful? And I'm like, well, there's nonprofits in the community doing the work. You should go talk to them and see what they need. And so, for example, we just had our 10th annual and final Summer Jam West over on the West Side, which is basically a music festival over on the West Side. And they really were struggling to get resources. And I was like, I met with this beverage company that loves giving away free product. Have you thought of connecting with various corporations to try and get free product for when these hot summer festivals are happening? You can have free water to offer. And they were so thrilled. I was able to help make that connection, and they got free product for the festival. And so partially is getting resources and funding into the district through the budget and doing it strategically, even though I'm not in the majority and it requires working across the aisle and being intentional and thoughtful, in addition to helping connect resources outside of the typical government path to make sure people are able to network and know what resources are available.
That makes a ton of sense, but then also shows, funny enough, akin to your committee innovation. It's not going to be just a simple, hey, we need this, and make it happen. And I could say as a as a person in the community, sometimes I think or I want that to be the case, but it's typically not. So I definitely see the innovative way you've thought about creating those opportunities.
And oftentimes change is scary, and people resist change, especially in government when we've been doing the same things for so long. But it really does require innovation and strategic thinking. So I have a piece of legislation that I drafted and found a Republican joint sponsor for. And it's a great piece of legislation, but I'm thinking to myself and talking with him, the legislative process is a beautiful thing. We could take the 2-year cycle and make it go through committee, or we could use this opportunity, the network that we have, and say, hey, whatever elected official, this might be better underneath your jurisdiction. This might be something that you can take initiative on. And so one of the things that I am most proud of, and I did a really fun interview with the Columbus Dispatch on, they actually asked me, how did you get so much bipartisan support? It's because we have to be intentional with our relationships and thinking about whose jurisdiction is this underneath. And so that one specifically was for missing peoples. And it's a working group that the governor set up that came out with recommendations for different agencies and the General Assembly, so the State House. And we were able to take some of those recommendations and turn it into legislation. And I already had legislation that was drafted. And so they were really able to tack in some of those additional recommendations into the legislation that I already had. And so one of the things that I'm thinking to myself, we have to be strategic and innovative, is technology. The chairman of technology and I were like, we could let this go through the process, the General Assembly, and go through committee and go through both the Senate and the House. Or we could say, maybe this is better suited for the governor's office. And yes, the governor's a Republican and he is in a different timeline, term, party, but I can still work with him and give him some of my resources and some of my ideas, right? And so one of the things that other states are doing is creating an AI study to kind of determine what their states are doing with AI, how they're using it, what the impact is, how does it impact data centers and water usage and jobs, workforce and education. Ohio State just announced that their students will start being fluent in AI starting this fall for the upcoming graduates. And how does it impact higher education? So these AI questions, I would love to do a study through the General Assembly. Technology moves so fast that sometimes I have to let go and not take credit and say, governor's office, this might be better suited for you, and hope that it sticks. So really being open to change in government and realizing that, yes, I have specific roles, but we can also be creative in the way that we get things done, whether it's working with local or statewide government bodies or elected officials, or if it's connecting nonprofits with products for their events. Like, we have to be creative in it.
And I think that is how things actually get done. It's like where I would want it just you say it, I say it, or me as a constituent says it, you do it, it gets done quickly, and then it's law. But it seems that the strategic thinking, the innovation, the collaboration are what actually get the change done, and that's most important rather than how the change is done. Speaking of change, as far as your district and District 6, what are the priorities that have kind of bubbled up, or the priorities that you have kind of going forward?
Absolutely. I decided to run for this seat because I was so sick of the extremism. And I also believe that we need somebody in the state house with lived experiences, somebody that's empathetic, somebody that's kind, somebody that's strong and is able to advocate for people who are more vulnerable, those more vulnerable neighbors. And part of my lived experiences, the feedback within the community has shaped the priorities of what we need. Housing. We are in a housing crisis right now. Healthcare. I mean, I have a full-time job and a salary, and I struggle to make my medical bills each month. Supporting the workforce, and that means making sure we have the infrastructure to support people over on the west sides, making sure that we have a reliable transportation system, making sure people have reliable childcare so they can go to work. These are really priorities that help build and maintain and in some cases create basic needs, those basic needs for vulnerable neighbors. So that's really my priority.
Wow. Yeah, those you definitely hit the big ones. And as far as it doesn't have to be those specifically, but what is your vision for your district and maybe 5, 10, even further out?
Ooh, I would say, not to sound too cliche, but a west side that's not just surviving, but is thriving. One where people at various levels of income have access to housing, stable jobs, safe communities, transportation, childcare. I think in order to make that a reality, we need stakeholders at every level with every background to come together to make sure these basic needs are met. And not just that, but to make sure West Siders are thriving in the next 5 to 10 years. Not to get too depressing, but recently the Columbus Dispatch also did an article about lifespan. And the lifespan of West Siders is drastically different from the people living in communities just a few miles away from us. And that goes back to show that our basic needs are not being met. That even goes down to something as simple as tree canopy, making sure that we have access to tree canopy on the west side because that's known to decrease crime rates and increase air quality. So those types of things, that creative thinking, making sure that we have our basic needs met so we can have longer life expectancies, just like our neighboring areas and the neighborhoods surrounding us. But to take that even more beyond just the surviving and turn it into thriving, one thing my neighbors always say, they really, 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 really want a place where they can go for breakfast and walk there on safe sidewalks to get some bacon and eggs and orange juice and start their morning that way. We have great farmers markets, but the sidewalks to get there, not so much. The bike lanes to get there, not very safe. More small businesses that don't come and go, that are able to stay there and be supportive and have people at all levels of income that can come and support those businesses because they have a little bit of extra cash in their pockets because they're not worried about property taxes, especially with so many families on the west side being multi-generational. Caregiving doesn't stop after 18 years, and we need to talk about that, right? That's, to me, basic needs, basic survival. But in 5 to 10 years, we need to be on that. We need to be beyond that. We need to make sure that our neighbors are thriving and have everything they need to live above and beyond.
Wow, I love that vision, and I know the people of District 6 definitely do it as well. I think it would be nice to, even as simply stated, just walk down the street, go be able to get breakfast, get there safely, and enjoy the small businesses in your community. I think that is a
Absolutely.
beautiful.
One of the craziest stories, I live on a street that connects to a bike path, but I have no sidewalks on my street to get to said bike path. And I have seen law enforcement say to people in the middle of the road, sometimes with their children on a bike, sometimes with their children walking in the middle of the road to get to said bike trail, and law enforcement is like, well, that's child endangerment. Now I gotta cite you, take you away, give you a lecture. And I'm like, how's that child endangerment? There's no sidewalks. Like, I mean, yes, you shouldn't be in the middle of the road, but like, you put a bike path here with a ramp to get onto the bike path, but then lecture people for not being able to get there safely when there's no opportunity to get there safely. And so those basic infrastructure needs, safety, protecting our community, making sure that we have not only the funds to do that, but the understanding of how state, local, federal government works, how to get those dollars, how to talk to your area commissions if you have them, or your city council wards if you have them. And again, state legislators, state legislatures are different from state to state. Each municipality, city is even more different. And so most people don't understand the makeup. And so understanding and educating each other, like, yeah, I am frustrated about these sidewalks, but who do I talk to? And they come to me. And if I can't do anything, then I help connect them with the people that can do something about it. And so really having a deep understanding and being able to help educate one another and determine what is in our jurisdiction. And if it's not within mine, who do I tap into to help with it, right? And so making sure that we all understand it's okay to not have the answers, but I will work, excuse my language, my ass off to help find the answers. And in the meantime, it takes a village, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's very important. And it gets to something that is at the heart of the Gentry podcast. And it was that engagement and collaboration with municipal government. Could you give us maybe an example of a collaboration or even a bill that was maybe bubbled up and you had to get information from the municipal level, and how did that look like? I'd love to hear it. You briefly spoke about it at a high level, but I'd love to hear just like a tangible example.
Absolutely. I feel bad. I'm like, my answers are so long-winded because your podcast and your questions excite me. It's good for me. I just hope this is actually digestible.
No, for sure, and it's great because it's actually bringing up additional questions, and I think that's I pride myself in having a conversation, and this very much feels like a conversation. So thank you.
I love that. Engagement, collaboration, crucial in government and public service, and the public sector as a whole. Real examples of it. One that's more traditional. If we have legislation that is going to impact the township, for example, there will often be like an association that represents townships that will come to committee and share with us their concerns, whether they support or oppose the bill. So oftentimes it's people giving testimony, whether it's the association, and even sometimes it's the leaders of the municipality themselves. So that's more of a traditional example of what that engagement and collaboration would look like at the State House. I guess I have three. That's the first. The second piece is engaging and collaborating with an open office policy. So it's sometimes my calendar is booked so far out that it can be difficult to get in. And so every single month, I am intentional about having open office hours at a public place that you do not have to pay for a cup of coffee to go to. So that way I am accessible without fear of somebody not having enough money to participate in said office hours, and making sure that I do it in different areas of the district to make sure I am meeting constituents where they're at. So a lot of open office hours to communicate, and oftentimes it's townships that are hosting me, and public libraries. So really connecting with those open office hours and other opportunities to engage with those meetings. So I will often meet with township trustees and go to their meetings. Oftentimes, like, what's the saying? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That's how I feel when I go to township trustees meetings. I'm like, these people are way smarter than me. And so showing up and engaging in their trustee meetings and letting them ask questions, and also asking questions myself. So that's the second piece, open office hours and going into the district. And then the third piece is capital budget. I want to be intentional going into the capital budget so I can be strategic about getting those dollars into my district. I've had quite a few requests come in already, and a lot of them are from local governments, townships, various municipalities. So for example, there's a mall that's being redeveloped and there's conversations about what annexation looks like. There is a township that has a wonderful ADA accessible playground where kids with disabilities can play with their siblings who don't have disabilities and play just the same. And they're looking to do one of the first BMX courses that are ADA accessible, which I'm so excited about. So the capital budget opportunities to engage with local stakeholders and elected officials at the local level to get their input on capital budget. So those are really the ways that I engage and collaborate with various levels of government at the State House through committee and legislation, through open office hours and attending meetings, and then also the capital budget.
That's beautiful. And I'm super excited to see. I mean, I got to come check it out. The ADA accessible BMX park. That's awesome.
Isn't
That seems like such a great opportunity. And I think what you stated is so touching, just all the decisions and the plans that you have to put together before even leaving the house. If you can just have one place where all your friends, all your family can come and everybody's having a good time, and just giving that sense of normalcy, I feel like is very important. So I'm definitely hoping everything goes through, because that I think would truly be beautiful. And I hate to do it, but I have to. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. So imagine we're in the world, no budget concerns. Whatever you want, you literally could just snap your fingers and you can erase any challenge in your district or statewide. What would that one challenge be? And this is no budget concerns.
I think shelter is a basic human right, and we don't talk about it often enough. And so if I could snap my fingers and remove any challenge, it would be making sure everybody's basic needs were met with an emphasis on everybody is deserving and needs shelter.
I think it can't get more fundamental than that. If I had all the money in the world, that would be the first thing I'd probably tackle, to just making sure everybody has what they need. Before, obviously, you want things that people want, but you just having what people need is most important. Christine, I appreciate what you left the viewers with, and I appreciate what you left me with. I know you mean it. I know you mean what you say. So thank you. And then to all our viewers, thank you for viewing and tuning in to the Jentry Podcast. Again, I'm Jonathan Mason, but more importantly, we have Christine Cockley, Ohio State Representative of District 6. Thank you so much, Christine, and everyone. Have a great one.